Since the exact moment you sat down in your very first classroom, you have been relentlessly programmed with one specific and incredibly dangerous piece of advice. As your teachers and your parents and the entire corporate machine looked at you and told you that you need to pick a lane. They told you that if you want to be successful, you have to choose one single career path, and you have to major in one highly specific subject so that you can dedicate the next 40 years of your life to becoming a highly specialized cog in a massive economic machine. But as you grew up, you started to realize there is a glaring, painful problem with this advice. Because you are simply not wired that way, and your brain absolutely refuses to operate in a single narrow lane. You are endlessly curious, with a massive and beautifully chaotic web of interests, where on any given Tuesday you are obsessively researching artificial intelligence, and by Friday you are deep into behavioral psychology, and by the weekend you are learning about ancient history or trying to build a new business from scratch. So society looks at your 20 open browser tabs and your half-finished projects, and they call you distracted, they call you a jack of all trades, and they arrogantly tell you that your inability to focus on just one single thing is exactly why your bank account isn't growing and why you feel so behind in life. They are completely and fundamentally wrong. In the modern digital economy, having too many interests is not a curse. It is actually the single greatest unfair advantage a human being can possibly possess. Today, we are going to completely tear down the illusion of the specialist, and we are going to break down the exact step-by-step blueprint of how to take your chaotic interests, merge them into a single unstoppable engine, and build a financial empire that absolutely no one else can replicate. Chapter 1. The Matrix of the Specialist. To understand why your multiple interests are a massive superpower, you first have to understand why society tried so desperately to suppress them in the first place, because the concept of picking a lane is actually a very modern invention that was created during the Industrial Revolution. 200 years ago, the wealthy factory owners did not want creative, independent, or multi-passionate thinkers. Because a multi-passionate thinker asks too many questions and disrupts the workflow, so they just wanted obedient, highly specialized workers. They needed one guy to stand in an assembly line and turn a specific wrench for 12 hours a day, and they needed another guy to pull a specific lever, meaning the entire modern education system was literally designed from the ground up to strip away your wide-ranging curiosity and forge you into a standardized, predictable worker who would blindly follow instructions. But you have to wake up and realize that we do not live in the industrial age anymore. We live in the digital age of infinite leverage. If you look closely at the most incredibly wealthy and globally impactful people in human history, you will see that they completely ignored the rule of picking a lane. Leonardo da Vinci was not just a painter, he was a master engineer and an anatomist and a visionary scientist. And Steve Jobs was obsessed with hard computer engineering. But he was also deeply passionate about Zen Buddhism and the artistic beauty of calligraphy. These people are not specialists, they are polymaths, and a polymath is someone who possesses deep knowledge that spans a massive number of different subjects, and who uses those complex intersections to solve impossible problems that normal people cannot even comprehend. When you have multiple interests, you are not broken, and you do not have a deficit of attention. You actually possess the exact same biological operating system as the greatest wealth builders in history, you just haven't been taught how to properly weaponize it yet. Chapter 2. The Trap of the Perpetual Beginner. Before we can build your wealth, we have to address the dark side of your curiosity, because the reason you are currently struggling financially is not because you have too many interests, it is because you are managing them entirely wrong and falling into the trap of the perpetual beginner. Whenever you discover a brand new interest, your brain releases a massive, euphoric flood of dopamine, which is the exact same chemical responsible for intense addiction. In the very beginning, learning a new skill is incredibly fun, and the first 20% of any subject is purely exciting, so you watch the YouTube tutorials, and you buy the expensive equipment, and you vividly imagine the glorious future where you are a millionaire programmer or a famous author. During this honeymoon phase, your brain actually rewards you simply for planning, giving you the emotional feeling of making progress, even though you haven't actually produced any real value for the market yet. But then the inevitable happens, and you hit the wall, you move past that easy first 20%, and the reality of hard work sets in. The coding gets impossibly complex, or the business requires you to do boring accounting, and the dopamine completely shuts off. Because you are a person with many interests, instead of pushing through that painful friction, you simply look out the window, spot a brand new shiny object, and completely abandon your current project to start the cycle all over again. You get a fresh hit of dopamine, you buy new books, you make a new plan, and you quit as soon as it gets hard, turning you into a perpetual beginner who is addicted to the thrill of starting and terrified of the friction of finishing. And here is the brutal, unforgiving economic truth of the world. The free market does not pay beginners. The free market only rewards the people who actually finish things. Chapter 3. The Skill Stacking Equation. So how do we fix this without killing your beautiful curiosity? And how do we turn you into a finisher who actually gets paid? The traditional path to wealth relies on extreme specialization, where society tells you that to get rich you must spend 10,000 hours becoming the absolute top 1% in the world at one specific skill, whether that means being the best corporate lawyer or the absolute best software engineer in your city. But becoming the top 1% in a single established established field is brutally hard, and it takes 30 years of soul-crushing competition, and even if you win, your income is permanently capped by the market rate for that specific job title. The wealthy polymath plays a completely different mathematical game using what we call the skill stacking equation, where instead of trying to be the top 1% in one single category, you simply aim to be in the top 25% in 3 or 4 entirely different categories. Becoming the top 25% in any skill is actually incredibly easy, and usually just requires about 100 hours of highly focused obsession, and luckily your curious brain is already perfectly built for extreme short-term obsession. Imagine a guy named David who loves fitness, but David knows he will never be the top 1% bodybuilder in the world. However, David is also obsessed with reading about human psychology, and he spent an entire summer learning how to do high-end video editing. If David just tries to be a standard personal trainer in a local gym, he makes a mediocre hourly wage and remains an easily replaceable commodity who has to work 80 hours a week just to survive. But when David stacks his seemingly unrelated interests, everything changes, because he merges his top 25% fitness knowledge with his deep psychological copywriting and his highly engaging video editing skills. He creates a beautifully produced online fitness program that taps directly into the psychological pain points of his audience, effectively creating a monopoly of one, and he scales his income to millions of dollars a year not because he was the absolute best at one thing, but because he was the only person on earth with that exact unique combination of things. Chapter 4. Building the Umbrella Empire. The absolute biggest financial mistake that multi-potentialites make is trying to monetize every single interest completely separately, and this fragmentation is the fundamental reason they stay completely broke. They start an e-commerce store on Monday, and then they launch a travel vlog on Wednesday, and then they try to become a freelance copywriter on Friday, which just leaves them running frantically in 5 different directions while completely exhausting their capital and making absolutely zero forward progress. You do not need to abandon your diverse interests, but you desperately need to build an umbrella brand, which is a single, overarching vehicle that allows all of your chaotic interests to live under one roof and serve one massive goal. For most people in the modern digital economy, this umbrella brand takes the form of a media company, a comprehensive newsletter, or a highly focused YouTube channel. Let's say you are passionate about investing and philosophy and the future of artificial intelligence. If you try to build 3 separate businesses around these topics, you will undoubtedly fail and burn out. But if you build an umbrella brand, you become the ultimate master curator of these intersections, where on Tuesday you write a brilliant script about the deep stoic philosophy of investing, and on Thursday you make a fascinating video about how artificial intelligence is going to completely change the global stock market. Suddenly, your inability to stick to one boring topic is exactly what makes your content undeniably magnetic and totally unique. The market is absolutely starved for lateral thinkers, and people are bored to death of the highly specialized finance guy who only talks about dry spreadsheets and interest rates, because they want to listen to the person who can connect the financial genius of Wall Street to ancient Roman philosophy. When you build an umbrella brand, your curiosity becomes your primary product, meaning every time you dive down a new rabbit hole, you aren't procrastinating, you are actually doing vital research and development for your media empire, and you are literally getting paid to learn. Chapter 5. Discovering your invisible thread. To truly merge your interests and build extreme generational wealth, you cannot just throw random ideas together and hope they stick. You need to identify the invisible thread that connects them all, which I call your master framework. I want you to look at all the browser tabs you currently have open, and look at all the completely different books sitting on your shelf, because even though they seem completely unrelated on the surface, underneath all of that chaos, there is a core human problem you are subconsciously trying to solve. Maybe you are deeply interested in physical nutrition and behavioral finance and daily meditation, which means your invisible thread is actually human optimization, and you are secretly obsessed with helping people operate at their absolute peak performance in every area of life. Or maybe you are interested in ancient history and complex software coding and cinematic storytelling, which means your thread is system building, and you love understanding exactly how complex things are constructed so you can elegantly explain them to the masses. Once you identify this master framework, you have finally found your true life's work, and you no longer look at a new hobby as a toxic distraction, you look at it as a shiny new weapon to add to your ultimate arsenal. If your master framework is human optimization, and you suddenly get obsessed with learning the complex biology of sleep science, you simply ingest that knowledge and feed it directly into your umbrella brand. You watch your audience grow and your income scale higher and higher, all because you finally decided to follow your natural curiosity and weave it into your overarching mission, instead of fighting it and trying to force yourself into a tiny, boring box. Chapter 6. The Economics of the Monopoly. When you finally execute this strategy and combine your master framework with your skill stack, you transition from being a replaceable commodity into an absolute monopoly, and the economics of being a monopoly are where the true, life-changing wealth is actually generated. When you are a highly specialized worker, like a standard graphic designer or a standard accountant, you are forced to compete on price. Because there are a million other people who can do the exact same specialized task that you can do, meaning clients will always just choose the person who charges the absolute least amount of money. But when you are a polymath who has stacked 3 or 4 unique skills together under one umbrella brand, you have absolutely no direct competition, because literally no one else on the internet is doing exactly what you are doing in the exact way you are doing it. You completely exit the bloody, hyper-competitive red ocean where everyone is fighting over pennies, and you enter a calm blue ocean where you dictate your own value. If you are the only person who understands high-level real estate investing, and drone videography and direct response copywriting, you don't charge an hourly rate to film a house. You charge a massive percentage of the final sale because you are bringing a completely unreplicable, monopolistic value to the table. Specialists have their income dictated by the market, but polymaths dictate their own price, and that is how you scale from making a few $1,000s a month to making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year without actually working any harder. Chapter 7. The Wealth of Extreme Adaptability. This brings us to the ultimate reason why you must embrace your multiple interests right now, because we are currently entering the most chaotic, rapidly changing economic period in human history, and the specialized workers of the world are completely terrified. If you have spent 20 years of your life going into massive student debt just to learn how to do one single repetitive task perfectly, you are sitting directly in the crosshairs of artificial intelligence, and the rigid, uncreative specialists are going to be automated out of existence in the blink of an eye. But the adaptable polymath is about to inherit the earth because wealth in the 21st century is no longer generated by doing the exact same thing over and over with robotic precision. It is generated by extreme, lightning-fast adaptability. Wealth will flow exclusively to the person who can wake up in the morning, look at a brand new disruptive technology, and immediately combine it with an ancient philosophy, packaging it all together with modern marketing, and selling it to the masses before the slow-moving specialists even figure out what just happened. You have been given a massive, beautiful gift because your restless, curious, and scattered brain is actually the ultimate wealth-building machine. You just have to stop apologizing to society for how it works. You have to stop letting people who are deeply trapped in the corporate matrix tell you to pick a lane, because the lane is an artificial illusion, and the entire highway actually belongs to you. You just need to identify your invisible thread, stack your unique skills, and build your umbrella brand so you can finally share your massive perspective with the world. When you finally stop fighting your own multi-passionate nature and start actively weaponizing your endless curiosity, you will not just break the exhausting cycle of being broke, you will build a massive financial empire that no machine and no competitor can ever hope to replicate. The world doesn't need another boring specialist, it needs your unique vision. Thank you for watching, and if you want to keep mastering the actual physics of wealth and human potential, make sure to subscribe to Pratibodh Wisedom, and I will see you in the next one.